Yeah, what are we calling this podcast?
Was it over underrated?
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Överschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over underrated.
Hello and welcome to Under Overrated, the end of year special. It's me, Fran. I am where I always like to be, under my bed sheets. It's cold outside. Most of the UK is being locked down. How are you? And it's just before Christmas as I record this, and for this episode we decided to go back through the year's best music and decide 10 songs that kind of meant something to us, and then share each other's playlists and then discuss what we thought of each other's choices. And then at the end we also decide what we thought was over or underrated in 2020. We try and avoid all of the COVID etc. bullshit, because I'm sure you're bored of that. So, enjoy and let us know what you thought of our choices.
Over underrated. Over undervärderat. Sous-évalué. Более чем заниженный. Over underrated.
So 2020, Fran. An unusual year, some might say.
Hell yeah. But, you know, it's not the worst year for music, luckily.
Thankfully, indeed. Although I wouldn't say it's like 2016 for James Acaster. I think there was some interesting songs and some songs inspired by lockdown, actually, and coronavirus, as we will be discussing.
In fact, I heard Robbie Williams' new Christmas single, which is a COVID special.
Ooh, I haven't heard it. What's it like?
But does not make my best of, but it's one of the best Christmas songs I've heard this year.
Okay.
Out of the 5. Check it out, guys. Let us know what you think of Robbie's Can't Stop Christmas single.
So I'm quite Scroogey about Christmas. I'm not a huge fan. For me, because I often go to Portugal to see my family, even though this year I'm not, it's a time kind of full of obligations, I feel. So the only Christmas songs that I listen to are the songs on my Christmas playlist called Bar Humbug, which is all sort of like alternative songs and, you know, rockier, louder songs that are a little bit different from the usual Mariah Carey wham fare. Though I have to say, what's always on the family rotation, bizarrely, I don't know why, is the Smurfs Christmas album. Genuinely, it's been on family rotation since I think the 90s, whenever my parents bought it for me as a kid. And you know what you're imagining is pretty much what it is. People with high-pitched voices covering Christmas classics. There's Mr. Smurf-tastic covering Shaggy.
So obviously I worked in a music store for a long, long time. So from November to January, I was in the abyss of hell called constant Christmas music. So I do avoid listening to any Christmas music when not needing to. I do have an alternative Christmas playlist, which I occasionally put on, which I have like bands like Mew and the Flaming Lips and stuff, but you know, there's no Christmas song that I will go out of my way to put on.
Yeah, same. I have to say, you know, my Bar Humbug playlist, I think the only one that's a bit more mainstream is Christmas Wrapping by the Waitresses. I think that's a good song. I think they're a good band.
Yeah. It's a Christmas banger.
It is a Christmas banger, but I think I'm not sick of it because it's sort of, let's say, B-list on the Christmas songs playlist.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll hear it probably once or twice, but not more than that. But again, I've not worked in retail over Christmas, so yeah, I'm sure there's the playlist for you of doom is longer.
Okay, so I don't know about you, but for the last 20 years I have been clinically creating the best of the year. Started off in 2000 making a cassette tape with 20 songs, and then I mutated onto CD.
Ooh.
And then when I got the internet and I discovered more music, I then would make 2 CDs, and now we're into the world of USB and playlists. But I try and limit myself down to a maximum of 50 songs, because otherwise it's ridiculous. And obviously back 20 years ago, it would only be songs that I had actually paid for could be on there, so it did limit what I could choose. And now you have all of the music in the bloody world. It's hard to try and discover as much as you can, and I probably spend far too much of my time reading playlists and discovering what all of the press think is cool and what other people think is cool, and then I sort of work out
what my best 50 are. So I've probably listened to about 1,000 songs over the past month.
Hell.
So when I say this is the best 50, I mean, hey guys, I've done my research.
Wow, that's impressive. I really admire your dedication. I don't have the patience to do that. So I think that's why our lists are quite different. Fran's top 10 list is extremely broad and eclectic, and there's a lot of new artists on there. Whereas mine really is more the songs from the favorite albums I had in 2020.
Over underrated.
Fran, let's start with you because you're the king of making playlists. So, what thought went into making this playlist? Was it what you expected at the end? Introduce us to it.
Well, I would say back in October when I started to think about making this, that it's been a crap year of music. But I think that's probably down to me.
Yeah, it is. It's all on you. It's all on you.
But I guess because I haven't been seeing like live acts or going to festivals, by going to festivals, it's a way for me to sort of like discover music and do research before I go and see lots of bands. But because I've had none of that, I've not felt like I needed to really listen to new music. There's a lot of stuff not on my radar, which is now very much on my radar, which I love. So I've discovered a lot of new bands. A lot of my established acts have been quite disappointing. And I will, when we get to our most overrated artists of the year, I will mention that. So my playlist is probably more than half of acts I had never heard of 2 months ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Good.
Over underrated.
So Sports Team, it felt very nostalgic to me. I've got Art Brut vibes. The voice was like Young Knives or, other similarly yelpy person from the mid-noughties. So it surprised me as kind of the opener on a playlist because I was like, this song could have been from 2007 is what I felt. So I liked it, but I was surprised when I remembered that the album this came from was Mercury nominated because it didn't feel particularly innovative to me, even though I did enjoy it.
People are surprised that I like this song because it's a bit like, I don't like. Yeah, it's a bit like, and I like Art Brut, and yes, it's definitely Art Brut. Esque, is that the right word? Because of the way he's sort of like, talking about like the modern world and how it's all a bit, disappointing and stuff. This isn't using my bag, but for some reason, I just love it. I can't stop this.
Sometimes you don't know why. I mean, we'll get to what my most played song of 2020 is as well, and I'm surprised that it's that one too. So,
but the album, didn't do anything for me. Like this is by far is a song that I love. So I was surprised it got Mercury nominated because but this is probably one of my favorite indie songs of the year.
Is the rest of the album like this song or not?
Yeah. I mean, the rest of the album isn't like black metal. It's all very much that sort of like proper like bouncing up and down indie. But yeah, this I think this has the hook.
Yeah.
Over underrated.
I will start off with the Nova Twins.
Nova Twins. Okay, so what did you think?
Well, they're one of the only ones. Well, no, that's a lie.
The only ones that you like and respect.
No. I had heard of most of yours. The Nova Twins are an act that I like, and they were on my best of 2019.
Ah, interesting.
Single last year. Was it Taxi or something?
Yeah, that's a great. Taxi was my favorite song from the album this song is from. Who Are the Girls? But on repeated listenings, it changed to Play Fair.
And I put down I don't know if you know Shampoo, the band Shampoo.
I've heard that We're in Trouble. Someone's come along.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think if Shampoo listened to Nine Inch Nails, Nova Twins.
Wow. Okay. On the one hand, I do get it because it's kind of pop sensibilities with industrial music. But I don't know. I feel like it's more than that in a way. Like you've listened to the album, then I imagine the whole album.
I think when it came out, I gave it a spin, and it didn't grab me as much as that single like last year.
Okay, because I think that it's a bit more varied than that. They've got a very quiet song, and I think some songs are more like traditional rocky. Like oh my god, what's it called? Devil's Got Your Face, for example. Like that's just like a traditional sort of rock song. So I can accept that for maybe a few of the songs. But I wouldn't say that for the whole album.
But how about this song? This is what we're talking about.
This song, Play Fair. So yeah, Play Fair, it's just in your face and loud. And I really like it. So yeah, Nova Twins, it's one of those where I'm like, I've known them since 2016, since their debut EP. And I'm fucking delighted that they've come to a wider audience, especially because they collaborated with Bring Me the Horizon this year. And yeah, like, the guys, Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine is repping them and stuff like that. And they are exactly
Really?
the kind of, yeah. And they're exactly the kind of band I'd like to be, because I don't know, they look stylish as hell, and I'm not. Yeah, they cross genres. They're they're not afraid to be activists, and I really like that. So yeah, Taxi was my favorite from the first listen of the album, but Play Fair, I think because it became a single this year, and so I heard it more, I was like, no, actually, this is the best one. And that's why I picked it.
Over underrated.
Next track is Must Stop by ONR featuring Sarah Barthel from Fantagram. I listened to it and I loved both of their voices, but I didn't click at all with the music. However, I then went to listen to the live in studio version with just the piano and the strings, and I really liked it. The original track left me feeling nothing. Like with the music, I really felt nothing, even though I could really appreciate both of their voices. And I mean, Sarah Barthel has a great voice. She has a great voice in Fantagram. She has a great voice in Big Grams, the project with Big Boy from Outkast. So it's always nice to see her. But this ONR guy who I didn't know, I was like, okay, nice voice, but that's it. But then, yeah, when the live in studio version really made it for me.
Are you a fan of the lyrics?
I'm not a huge fan of the lyrics, but because I think they're quite simple, but I really felt the lyrics when I listened to the live in studio version. They're so immediate and obvious, and you feel the anguish, and that's really powerful.
So I had never heard of her or the band.
Okay.
In my entire life. And then when I went to watch the videos of her, I discovered that they've got like 11 million views.
Yeah, they're big.
Right. they are a thing.
Yeah, but that happens sometimes with American bands. There are some American,
Yeah.
they're not quite rock, but there's some American alternative bands. And then you go and look at the numbers and it's like 5 million monthly listeners. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, how is this possible?
Yeah, because obviously they're my sort of music as well. So I was surprised I never ever heard of them. And
yeah, start with Nightlife. Start with the EP. I really recommend it. I think they're one of those bands that like any kind of music fan or alternative person is into, and that's why they've made it so big.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the guy, ONR is just one guy called Robert Shields,
Okay.
and he was in an indie band called Finding Albert, who didn't really do much, and he's carried on trying to do music, and I think he's now moved to America, hence why he's collaborating with American.
Oh, okay, because he's Scottish, right?
And some of his tracks have had that's 10,000 listens. So he's really new. Obviously, the track with Sarah has had, I think, a lot higher because people know who she is. It's quite brave because it's a really catchy song, but the lyrics obviously mean it's never going to be played on daytime radio because the F-bomb is literally all the way through it. So there's no edit either for it. I have heard the stripped down version, which I enjoy, but I think I prefer the original. But yeah, but his album, well, not his album, he's made about 3 EPs, and his music is really varied. And he's done a song with Nile Rodgers as well.
Oh, Nile Rodgers once again.
Hey, called Cool TV, which is a brilliant song, and literally no one's ever heard of it. I've got no idea why. Yeah, and I think it's one of the best songs of the year. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy that you liked at least one version of the song.
One version. Yeah, so has he had an album? Because when I went to give a quick glance, no. Okay, so
he's one of those acts you mentioned earlier who's released about 3 or 4 EPs this year. Yeah. So he's basically made an album worth of music, but not an album. Yeah,
but that's the new reality, right? I feel like you're either Ariana Grande or Taylor Swift, releasing album after album after album, like nonstop, or especially if you're a new act, you are just releasing singles because I think of the changing nature of the music industry, right? Where it's like constantly chasing the next buzz.
So yeah, so hopefully he's going to make something great next year. But I would be a terrible A&R man because every artist I get behind will fail miserably. So in my head, O&R will be massive 2021 guys, but they're probably
let's revisit this. Let's revisit this. And I mean, come on, like I'm sure the people who do the BBC sounds of polls, they're not always right on everything either, right? So you win some, you lose some.
Over underrated.
Back to Babs, and we're now on to Ghost Poet, the beloved UK press Ghost Poet's favourite with When Mouths Collide. And I mean, I've been aware of him for quite a long time. And I even thought, okay, I'm not loving the music, so I will check out the lyrics and see if that's why everyone likes him. And even the lyrics are pretty just average.
Do you not like people who complain about the modern world? Because that, like you said that before, and that is kind of Ghost Poet's vibe.
yeah. I guess this is why I'm not into a lot of like I'm not into political music. I'm not into music about sex. I'm not into music about shooting people. That
discounts a lot.
I know, but it makes me cringe. Like, I remember E17 had a single called Steam, and in the chorus it had a sex noise. And I remember being in the car with my mum, and every time I went on, I wanted to kill myself. But I could hear my mum could hear an orgasm.
This is clear childhood trauma. This is why.
And it's why I can't listen to R&B. I can't listen to a guy talking about how he's going to do a girl. And like, I just find it.
You must
awful.
hate Ludacris and lick you from your head to your toes and all of that. My neck, my back. Yeah, wow. Okay.
So obviously there's a song coming up on your playlist. This is going to be, flagging a lot of issues with me. So yeah, so Ghost Poet, musically there's nothing going on. Lyrically, there's nothing in it.
Whoa. Musically, there's nothing going on. Okay, that excited you. I thought you meant nothing going on at the end.
Because as you have said before, I like something you can whistle or something atmospheric. Therefore, the box is not being ticked. So let's move on.
So I knew that you wouldn't like it, but I obviously wanted to be honest to my feelings because we've discussed it before. My opinion is that this is from his 5th album. It's his best album. I think he got divorced because he mentioned having a wife in older interviews, and now he's mentioning he mentioned something about dating apps, and I know he's moved to Berlin. So I think probably it was written with that as the backdrop. But no, for me, it's an almost perfect album. I like every song, and he actually recently, a few days ago, released another song, Bruised Fruit, which is kind of on another deluxe version, and it's excellent as well. I think he's gone from strength to strength, and I was absolutely delighted when he reposted one of my Instagram stories tagging him, because he was my top artist on Spotify this year, and I was in his 0.01% top fans, but I found out there's a 0.001%, so I was like, damn it, almost, but not quite.
So is this like the biggest hit from that album, or is this just a
no, it's not. It's not even a single. It's my favorite song from that album.
Okay.
But I mean, I think if you don't like this, you're not gonna like the others. So
yeah, I mean, he's been like hailed for the past 10 years. So I've come across him, and I've dabbled with Ghost Poet, and I've walked away with my hands.
That's fine. That's okay. I think it's definitely not for everyone, because he does the speak singing thing, and we've talked about that, and some people don't like it. I quite like it. So it's, I think he's great. I think it really reminded me of Radiohead, this album, I have to say, kind of newer Radiohead. But you're not going to agree with that, so let's move on.
Okay, let's bring it back to the happy music.
Over underrated.
Okay, so Girl in Red, Rue. So she's one where she's massive. I went to look at her numbers. Never fucking heard of her. She's only 21. Fucking hell. And Norwegian. So when I started listening to it, I didn't like it. It sounded a bit country-esque, and that's not my vibe at all. But when those kind of country guitar sounds go away and the extra percussion comes in, I got really into it. So I liked basically the second half of the song, but not the first. And I listened to it several times to be like, okay, let's just check this. Yeah, and that's how I felt, really. And the build up to, when it changes into that percussion really made me think that this would be a good entry for Eurovision.
Really? I mean, yeah, the production makes the song. I think that I've listened to some of her earlier songs, and it's basically just her strumming an acoustic guitar, and it's a bit basic. But with this, because of the in the chorus, when the big sort of like effect comes on, it really lifts it up. And I can't stop listening to the song. I think it's amazing. Never heard of her, like yourself. Was absolutely shocked to find out how big she was, because I thought, okay, this is a random Norwegian singer, but 10 people who know, and it turns out she's massive. Yeah,
and if you go to the About section on her Spotify, she's like, hi, I'm Girl in Red, I make songs in my bedroom, like very humble sort of bio. And then you look at her Wikipedia, and it's like, yeah, she's done like 2 North American tours and this and that, and you're like, fucking hell, lady, like you're doing pretty well, mate.
Yes, I wonder who got behind. I wonder if she's producing it, or if she's found someone really great to work with,
or maybe both.
Who's lifted her? Because but when you listen to her earlier singles, it's kind of like, okay, here we go. But yeah, that track is beautifully crafted, and I can't even find out who produced it, so I shall have to go back and research it.
Over underrated.
Dua Lipa with everybody else, with her posse, the blessed Madonna,
Yeah.
With levitating, yeah?
Yeah. So before you get into it, I just want to clarify because there's several different versions of this song. So my favorite song is the one from her remix album Club Future Nostalgia, not the one from her main album. And I will get into that after you've given your review.
Okay. My view is it's basically fine and has some nice hand claps. But this will not make my... Like, I have a song from Dua Lipa, which obviously people have heard of, as I won't spoil. And I've listened to it 2 or 3 times thinking, yeah, I like everyone involved in this. But I've made sure that I've listened to your version, not the original. So I don't know the original that well. And yeah, I thought I'd like more from it, but it does. I'll wait for something more magical to happen, like a more catchy chorus or some like synth line or something, and it didn't really grab me as much as the other songs, unfortunately.
That's really interesting. So the reason why I wanted to be specific is because this remix album totally changed my view on the original album. So the original album, Future Nostalgia, I listened to it and it left me cold. I was like, this doesn't feel very original. I don't know. It's deliberately called Future Nostalgia, right? She's deliberately harking back on the grades. I was like, it's fine, but I'm not at all in a rush to go and listen to it again. Then when I found out that Blessed Madonna was doing the remix album, I was like, ooh, because I've known her since she was Black Madonna. And she did like a great single called Stay with a B-side or double A-side called Venus Requiem, which is really fantastic. So I was like, oh, okay. I didn't really like the album, but I'll definitely go and listen to the remix album. And I absolutely fucking love the remix album. It really totally changed my view of the album, the original album, Future Nostalgia. And now when I go back, I appreciate the songs from the original album way more than I did on first listen. But I think this might be a difference in the way that we function, Fran, because I quite like remixes and covers sometimes. I think I like sometimes versions that force me to reinterpret it in a different way. And that's exactly what this did. It really focused on a few elements and then, chucked in Madonna and Missy Elliott for the ride, and that definitely made me appreciate the original more.
Over underrated.
Yes. Okay, so the next one is My Own Soul's Warning by The Killers. Fran and I have discussed The Killers, and he was shocked to hear my opinions that basically I only really like their first album, and everything else that I've listened to I don't like. And I'm very sorry, Fran. I listened to this song and felt nothing in my cold heart. It did absolutely nothing for me at all.
And I'm leaving. Seriously, I think this is probably their best song in 15 years. No, since Sam's Town, so 2006 or 7.
So I don't like Sam's Town. So for me, that's I like Hot Fuss. Yeah, God, Hot Fuss. Yeah, it's called Hot Fuss. Listen, Fran, I wanted to like it, but I'm just not. So I'm not a huge fan of Brandon Flowers as a frontman. Like, he's a good-looking guy and he has a nice voice, fine. But I'm not convinced. He doesn't feel very authentic to me as a person and as a musician. So I think that's part of what puts me off. Like, he sounds quite impassioned in some of the parts in this song, and I couldn't believe it. So I think that's a bit of a barrier for me for The Killers. But I went in wanting to like something else by The Killers. But I'm afraid this wasn't the one.
I mean, he wears his influences on the sleeve, and is a sleeve that I would possibly wear myself. So
yeah, I mean, I know he really champions bands that I like. Like, I remember, he introduced the Pet Shop Boys at the Brits, I think, and he's definitely influenced by a lot of British music as well, very, very openly. But sometimes he's kind of the opposite for me of Radiohead, where I fucking love Radiohead. But sometimes you go and listen to the influences and you're like, what the fuck? Like, how did this influence them? This is really not my kind of thing. With The Killers, it's the reverse for me. Like, love their influences, but not a huge fan of them as a band.
I mean, I'm a sucker for widescreen indie rock. So Simple Minds, I like Coldplay. I like really big sounding, melodic stadium rock, which is probably the least cool thing I could ever say. But I do enjoy it. And this album, Imploding the Rats, was one of the albums I had heard previously because I had to review it. And I was loving it. I think it's the best album for a long time. And yeah, there's some cracking singles, including Caution with Lindsey Buckingham. And I can't wait to go and see the guitar player quit the band. So very good. get some extra help. So
Mhm.
if you've got the lead guitar player or Fleetwood Mac not doing much, get him down. Come on down, guys.
Come on down, Linz.
Why not?
So have you seen the Killers live? Because I have
Yeah.
not, but they really split opinion of the people I know. I know people who've seen them and said they were absolute shit, and people who've seen them and said they were amazing.
I've seen them 3 times, and the times they were bad was not their fault. It was where they're playing. So Reading 2008, they had some sort of new ruling when they couldn't turn the sound above a certain volume. So literally, you had to try and listen to them play, and that's not their fault. So no, that's Reading Festival. I saw them in Hyde Park, and in Hyde Park, in these big like BST festivals, unless you get there early and you're in like the front bubble, you're about 200 meters from the stage, surrounded by drunken pricks who only want to hear Mr. Brightside, so therefore just have a chat during the whole concert. So that's not the best place. But I saw them at Isle of Wight Festival 2 years ago, made sure I was near the front, made sure I was surrounded by Killers fans who knew all the lyrics. And literally, me and 10 random people were singing the lyrics for an hour and a half, jumping up and down.
Oh, that sounds
fantastic.
great. That sounds really great. Yeah.
So at a festival, if you can find your pocket of people, it's the best place to see a band, because you're going to have like the lighting and the confetti and everything. So yes, I loved that gig, but the first 2 I was disappointed, but that's not really the Killers' fault. It was more down to other issues.
Yeah, I think there's nothing worse when you're super into a band and you're at a concert and you're the only one in the surrounding area kind of going mental. In Belgium, that happens a lot, unfortunately. Like, even when you go in, not just at festivals. In fact, it's almost the opposite. I feel like at festivals, people are more enthusiastic because the people who go to festivals are more likely to be kind of bigger music fans. It depends on the festival, but definitely when I've been to Werchter and other stuff, people are more enthusiastic. Whereas I've been to so many concerts where I'm like, guys, we've all paid 30 euros for these tickets. Why are you standing at the front with your arms crossed? Come the fuck on, guys. So yeah, I think any concert where people are going that crazy, that sounds great.
Over underrated.
We have someone that perhaps cannot stop mentioning, Mr. Tom Beck.
Yes,
Survive.
I shoehorned him in. What did you think?
It's been a while since I've listened to Tom Beck. Like, when was the album? How long ago was it?
So this album is from this year, but the album before.
But, I mean, the album where he first made his name. Was 2008?
No, 2005, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's probably the last album I heard.
Wow, the first album.
Last time I heard him was probably 2005.
Wow. Okay.
See, I'm not a big fan of his vocal, but that's but I can
see,
get past that.
Knowing your views on Fred Schneider from REM and Ghost Poet, I was like 3, 2, 1. He's gonna say the same about Tom Beck, but yeah, carry on.
But musically, it's my kind of groove. But I just thought that he needed maybe a middle 8 or something to break it up. It became a bit samey, and it needed something just to sort of like punch through a little bit. But no, but I listened to it again, but I don't think it sort of needed that je ne sais quoi. Is that right?
Yeah. Bowie. So I realized when I was looking at another song on my list and thinking, oh, that's definitely the longest song. I realized that actually this song was the longest song. It's at 6 minutes 30. I don't really feel that, because I think I love it so much that I don't mind that it's repetitive. For me, I enjoy it. So, and did you kind of listen to the lyrics or hear them? Because it's basically saying, I know we will survive. I know we will carry on. And he was like, yeah, I actually didn't write this during the pandemic, but it just so happened that I was writing about it more generally. So when it's the opening song on his new album, New Symbols. And I was like, whoa, like fucking deep, man. And then it was like, oh no, like I actually didn't write it for the pandemic.
Michael Stipe did a song this year with the other 2 members of The National, the brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And the chorus of that is he talks about being locked down. And yeah, he wrote it last year.
Yeah.
So it's one of those random things.
It happens, right? So Tom Beck, right? He released an album in 2005. His next album, 2011. So 6 years between. Then the next one, 2014. Okay, 3 years. And then the next one, 2020. So he's had like 5-year and 6-year gaps. I love him, but he's a frustrating man because he has like almost zero social media presence. So the last update that there was on this album was a tweet that he did in 2017 being like, working on it, yeah? And that was it. and the whole time you're there like checking every now and again like, anytime now, and there's absolutely nothing. So yeah, I was just so happy when this came out, and I think the album is a total return to form.
Does he mention it in interviews? Why, like, is he busy doing other things? Is this not his?
I think so, because so he has designed, I think with other people, this new, or he's doing the crowdfunding for this new player called Sleeve Notes. So he's basically created, it's sort of somewhere between, he says, kind of listening to vinyl and an iPod. So it's like an electronic player that's big, so you can see the album artwork on it, because he's really into album artwork, and I think Sleeve Note used to be an app. And so he's been doing that, and I think he's like a graphic designer as well, so he's something techie and something designer-y. And I mean, he has a song on this album about my child or whatever it is, and I saw him live, I would guess in 2015, 2016, and I noticed he had a wedding ring. So, you know, I think he's but I'm not
I would never notice that.
I'm not I do, because I'm staring at his lovely hands. I love you, Tom. Anyway, yeah, I saw him. Oh, it was so good. It was like it was a concert where he played the whole of We Have Sound, the first album, in its entirety, and then a few more songs. So heaven for me. I've listened to the album quite a bit, but I think it's going to be one of those albums where I like different songs on repeated listenings. But Survive, the opening track with those lyrics, you know, I guess it's one of the more anthemic songs on my playlist. Yeah, that's why I picked it.
Over underrated.
And Exile by Taylor Swift featuring Bon Iver. So with Taylor Swift, I'm not a huge fan. And it's one of those, again, where I feel like the songs that I like the most are not the songs that her fans like. So Bad Blood, with the version with Kendrick Lamar, I love and listen to that on repeat. And whatever year that came out, that was on my top list from Spotify. And I quite like the singles from Reputation, where she kind of changed direction. With this song, it feels a bit more country, a bit more OG Taylor Swift. And yeah, I didn't really like it. I like the piano and I like their voices, but the strings didn't do it for me. And as a whole, the melody didn't really do it for me.
When their vocals sort of like collide in the final minute, it's really, really beautiful. I've just looked on Spotify. It's only had 153 million views. I listened, so it's a bit disappointing for her. And that's surely...
Fucking hell.
I really do like the song. I think it's one of my favorite songs of the year. And I am by no means a...
Swiftie?
Is that what it's called? That's
I think
Swiftie.
So.
I like the occasional single, but I don't own any of her albums. But yeah, I think that the vocals were magnificent in the last minute when they sort of like blend together. But you don't have a soul, so
I have no heart.
We can move on. We can move back on to the soulless, angry Babs list.
But no, like, I just want to say, I did like their voices, and I did like the intertwining of their voices as well. It was, again, a bit like the ONR track. It's the backing for me, the music, rather than the melody of the singing. So yeah,
you like classical, don't you?
I do like classical. Music. I played the violin for 12 years. So yeah.
Is it you're jealous that it wasn't you playing the violin in that track? Is that what's happening here?
No, not at all.
Hurrah, you made it to the halfway stage. Which is your favourite so far? Just, say it out loud, I won't judge you. So I have cut out a long discussion of classical music with Babs. So when you get back and I'm its host, you can kind of guess what happened.
Over underrated.
Okay, so from host to Charlie XCX. We always hear about
that classic transition, yeah.
With anthems, but is it an anthem? I like the idea of Charlie. I like the production. A bit like The Girl in Red. The production makes the song. Without the production, there's not enough for me to be a big fan, but when her music's on, I enjoy a bit of Charlie, and I do move my leg up and down. So
one leg only, right? Not too, not too crazy.
She's a one-legger at the moment.
One legger. Oh my god, amazing. So Charlie XCX, I love and I'm fascinated by her. But I have to agree with you that her musical output is a bit uneven. So I really love her, and this lockdown bought a Vroom Vroom baseball cap because My previous baseball cap of about 16 years finally broke, so I was like, all right, I have to get a new one. And I was like, oh, let me think about it. And then when I saw the merch, I was like, let's do this. So this is from the album that she conceived of and recorded totally in lockdown within a few weeks with only a few collaborators. And I'm not a huge fan of the album compared to especially her last album, Charlie. I like 2 or 3 songs on there a lot, but I think Anthems is fantastic. A lot of it is to do with the lyrics. I think the chorus says, I want anthems, late night, my friends New York. It was released in May, so that was for me kind of 2 months into lockdown. So it really, I like her already, and then for her to release a song that's so talking about the times, because a lot of the songs are about how much she loves her boyfriend. Good, happy for her, but obviously I don't connect with that as much as fit as he is. But that one.
Who's her boyfriend?
So her boyfriend is Huck Kwong, who I know from social media stalking. His sister Lily Kwong is married to Nick Kroll, the comedian.
Okay, well, I will check out more of her anthems.
Over underrated.
And now we're going on to another artist that I don't think legally you can slag off. So this will be interesting.
Just you wait. So Ghosts by Bruce Springsteen. So I'll say that when this started, because I didn't realize it was Bruce Springsteen, I had it playing and I wasn't looking at the playlist at the time. I thought it was REM at the beginning. It really, that's what came to me immediately. Fran, I'm afraid it was my least favorite song on the playlist that you provided. Fran is trying to flick me through the webcam. I am not a Bruce Springsteen fan at all, really. I think I have one song saved by him, which is Nebraska, I think. I'd have to go and check this. Yeah, I really admire him. I really admire his politics. Only now was I reading that he's been a gay marriage proponent since the 90s. And I'm like, that's pretty cool for a straight rock guy to be so vocal about it. When it started, I thought it was going to go in one direction. I was like, oh, okay, maybe. And then some jangly guitars or something come in and I was like, oh, no. So, yeah, sorry, Fran.
What's interesting is 5 years ago, I didn't really listen to Bruce Springsteen. He was just one of those acts like Pink Floyd who was just there. And then he released, I think, an album maybe in 2015, 14. And he did Glastonbury. And I watched the Glastonbury performance. And that's when I thought, oh, Jesus, he's actually quite good, isn't he? And then since then, he's made my best of 5 times in a row.
Wow.
So
has he released enough music?
Yeah, but he keeps doing so last year it was a solo album. This album is him and the E Street Band. So he goes back and forth. And last year he did an album by himself with loads of orchestration. And then so he constantly releases music. And maybe he's thinking he's getting older, so he needs to make more music before it's over. But yeah, he's been really prolific. Unlike a lot of people from his era, most people from the 70s, you're lucky to get an album every 5 years. But Bruce literally keeps making more music. So if you're a Bruce Springsteen fan, you must be loving it at the moment. So yeah, okay, you're wrong, but that's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We can move on.
I hope we can still be friends.
Over underrated.
From that to something very different from my selection.
We are moving on to one of the biggest songs of the year, is it?
Oh, I think the biggest in a way, at least culturally.
It's a song that I was aware of the title, and I thought, do I bother? I know I'm going to hate this. This is never a good thing to admit to. You should always have an open mind. But obviously, I'm aware of Cardi B. Not a big fan, guys. It's a song about a wet ass pussy.
You can just call it WAP, Fran. It is actually just called WAP. So
I mean, bizarrely, during lockdown, I did write a song about my white enormous penis called WEP, which I now can't release. So I'm quite sad about.
The masses will be very sad about that. WEP. WEP. That sounds like, I don't know, the acronym, I don't know, the fucking Winchester Equestrian Parade or something like that.
Yo, come on and ride my web. Come on and see my web. Let's do you can tell it's going somewhere. So yeah, I've now watched the video.
Please record and release it.
As I was talking about earlier, yes, it literally is everything I hate in music. I know I sound like Grandpa Francis, but yeah, I'm sorry. It's all yours. Explain to me why I like it.
So I quite like Cardi B. I liked Invasion of Privacy. So I was aware, I liked Cardi B. I liked a bit of Megan Thee Stallion. And when I saw this song, I just honestly was not expecting to like it so much. It is an assault on the senses, and I'm a big fan of songs talking about sex, especially when it's women talking about sex. I think Teachers of Peaches turned 20 this year, and you're like, yeah, that was someone who was really kind of bringing that to the fore and has definitely influenced a lot of people. But I just love everything about it. I love the insane lyrics talking about macaroni in a pot, and spelling her name, writing. I think it's hilarious. Like it's genuinely funny lyrics as well. Like, yeah, okay, it's a bit sexy, but it's funny. And it's the bass. I absolutely love the bass, the da 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 da. And I think it's very self-effacing. Literally it opens with it going, there's some whores in this. I love everything about it. I know that it's not to everyone's taste, and I really enjoyed. I mean, my dad and his partner, his husband, are very liberal people, but I really enjoyed showing the music video to them and the song, and then showing them all the reaction videos of people's parents doing it. I would happily defend Cardi B and WAP in any kind of overrated episode, because I think it's genius.
Okay, I mean, it's nice. Again, we can go from Bruce Springsteen to a wet ass pussy.
You don't have to say it, Fran. You're choosing to say
Look,
it.
I don't get to say it often, so I can use my new platform to get away with saying it.
And guys, Wet by Fran will be out on all good platforms soon.
I'm having some issues with the production company, so hopefully it might be on a remix album next year.
Remix album, yeah. Pew, it's going to be called.
Over underrated.
So the next one on your list, Fran, you'll be happy to hear, was my favorite on the list. It's Our Days.
Ooh, controversial.
Yeah. So Our Days by The Great Communicators, and it was another one where. Well, no, it was kind of the opposite of Bruce Springsteen, where it started, I thought, oh God, there's some jangly guitars. By the end, I loved it because it changes quite a bit. There's a man singing at the beginning. There's a woman, well, a masculine person, feminine person. It again feels quite sort of noughties indie nostalgic in the same way that the other song by the band whose name Sports Team sounded. I really enjoyed it. And then I went and looked into it, and they're Dutch, which I wouldn't have guessed because you can barely hear the accents on there. And yeah, of course it reminded me of Pip Blom, who I imagine you know who they are.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I said this is literally the first time since Too Unlimited that I've known of the Dutch band, so I'm happy about finally
Venga Boys, Fran.
Same era as Too Unlimited, I think.
No, later.
Okay, since the 90s, we came with the first Dutch band I've been aware of. And yeah, I was happy as Larry but the Dutch, because also you're from the rival country.
Let's say Benelux, yeah.
No, Belgium's made my playlist, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah, I never heard of them in my entire life. And I've tried some other songs, and this is by far the best song. And yeah, I don't think that all their songs are similar, that they both share vocals, but I think when the feminine vocal comes in, it comes onto another level. And yeah, I look forward to seeing where they go next.
Yeah, and I actually thought, well, firstly, it made me realize how many songs you had on the playlist that have feminine and masculine voices, which I know that a lot of people like, and yeah, I like it too. And it would have been nice to hear them harmonize, because it is kind of in two parts. I would love to hear a song where they do.
Over underrated.
Back down for something completely different.
The old Bring Me the Horizon, who I'm from a town called Bournemouth, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. And in Bournemouth, we shorten it to BMTH. So every time I see a hashtag saying BMTH, I get excited thinking about Bournemouth is trending. What is it? And then I find out, Bring Me the Horizon, stealing our bloody hashtag for Bournemouth, the bastards. So obviously, I've always had a bit of a hatred towards them, and it's not really my cup of tea music-wise. I don't mind heavier music, but that singing style, which seemed to come out of the mid-noughties, I find hard to jump on board with. It's, you sound like Brandon Flowers sounds a bit too fake when he sings. Mm-hmm. I find this, because obviously I know that they do not sound like that at all when I speak, so it feels like a put on vocal.
Interesting. Okay.
And it puts me off a little bit, because a bit like Lost Prophets. I mean, they're from Wales. They cannot sound more Californian when they sang. But I guess because they probably were influenced by American bands, it's hard to not have a similar vocal style. But yeah, I like the quiet bits with like the choir sort of sections.
Mhm.
They're great. But when he sort of goes full hardcore, yeah, no, thank you.
So you don't mind because he goes from like being very quiet and almost whispering in some parts. So the song is Parasite Eve. It goes from very quiet to screaming. So would you say that you liked or the parts that were quieter, or was it just tolerated?
I was tolerating it. I mean, it starts off great. I thought, they've got a new sound. Where are we going to go? And then sadly, I was back on board for bad ship. Bring me Horizon.
the bad ship BMTH, eh?
BMTH.
So this for me is the most surprising inclusion on my top 10 list, because I was very indifferent to Bring Me the Horizon. Because for me, they're kind of emo-esque, as you say, like somewhere between emo and metal. And those are two genres that I'm not really so into, although I'm getting a little bit more into metal these days. And the reason I went to listen to this album was because of the aforementioned Nova Twins, because they feature on another song on the album, which I actually think you might appreciate more because it's definitely a bit less shouty. But this, I wanted to put my favorite song from there, and this was it. But yeah, I was shocked, absolutely shocked with this album, because I went to just listen to the Nova Twins song and I thought, oh, okay, this isn't bad. And then I listened to the whole album, and it's quite a reasonably heavy album. And on first listen, I loved it. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is not my kind of music at all. I'd listened to a few of their other songs. So they have a song with Grimes from their album last year that I enjoyed. I think they have a song with Halsey that I enjoyed. But it was like, one of those ones where they're like, oh yeah, okay, they've got one or another. I did not expect to like a whole album in the way that I did. I think this song is, the best by far. I have sang it on the karaoke app Smule, and honestly, singing this song, any other song from the albums, is honestly, I feel like free therapy, because you're just shouting into your phone and it's fantastic. They're harder Linkin Park for the 2020s. That kind of genre mashup of like the very, very heavy guitars and then the synth as well. I think they did it really well. My cousin is a big BMTH fan, and when I found out that I liked this album, I went to my 24-year-old cousin like, oh, Fred, I like them now. You can talk to me about this. And he says that, their older stuff is quite different. It's definitely a new direction that they've gone into. And I'm guessing there's probably fans that don't like that, but I loved it.
I think that in 2020, rock is rather dead. And I was aware,
No.
and I was quite aware that Bring Me the Horizon did change the sound on the last album, because I think there's a track which was a bit more sympathy, and I thought, okay, I get it. You guys are thinking, right, we're going to run out of places to play. We need to sort of like, jump on board and get some help. So that's why suddenly they had like people like Grimes working with them. It's a cynical, but it makes sense because, festivals are changing and people
so
don't want
you really think that cynically about it, that it's...
I do. Well, look, I was working in HMV when they came out. I saw their hairstyles, and they had that angular hair that every band had to have, and I thought, and now they're suddenly changing it. I mean, yeah, they may have changed the influences, but I think that they are kind of aware of who they are and the market, and it's fine. I mean, being in a band wanting to continue, it makes sense. You have to do things to keep going, and that's fair enough. I mean, there may be massive fans of Grimes and Halsey and Nova Twins.
Yeah, I mean, I will choose not to be a cynical and wide-eyed, just, wow, a band really evolving with the times. But to be honest, I don't really care whether it's cynical or not. I honestly think it's a fantastic album. And yeah, just to go back to the sounding fake, I find it quite funny because I think, especially not necessarily on this song, but there's other songs in the album where his northern accent really comes through. So he'll be like, shut the fuck up, and it sounds really northern. And then other parts where it doesn't at all. And there's a song with Youngblood, who's also from oh god, is it Doncaster, which is close, I think. I'm not very good with British geography.
It's up north.
It's up north. So typically southern. Yeah, it's north. It's all the same. it's all nearby.
Guys, my dad's from up north, so that you can't have a go at me. I'm part northern.
I can't claim that, unfortunately. Only northern Portugal. That's it.
Over underrated.
From metal to metal at last.
Yeah, I was very surprised with the inclusion of this song. But then I listened to it. So Don't Chase the Dead by Marilyn Manson. So I like Marilyn Manson. I'm not kind of a completist. I think the only album of his that I have is The Greatest Hits. And I think the only album I've listened kind of all the way through his Hollywood. So I didn't really know what to expect, because obviously that's from the 90s and the greatest hits is from, I think, around 2004, maybe, when he released Tainted Love. This really surprised me as a song. It was way more melodic than I thought it would be. And I think the reason I enjoyed it as much as I did was because I really like the contrast between the music and his voice, because his voice is the usual Marilyn Manson. That's a bad impression, but you know what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
It was melodic and a bit synthy, and I think I was expecting something a bit like the Deftones, well, just Deftones, and yeah, it wasn't. It was something completely unexpected, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, he's I think it's him now. I think, like Alice Cooper, he was a band, and now his name is just him. I think that's correct. I'm not a massive man of Manson, but I think that's what's happened. As you are aware of his 80s covers, he is a big fan of synth pop. Hence why he's covered Depeche Mode and
Eurythmics
and Tainted Love, etc., etc. So,
and the Tainted Love is a great cover.
Yeah, and so he's always had synths on his album, and he worked with Trent Reznor. So he always mixes like glam rock, which is a genre I love, and new wave. And to me, this is not new wave, even not new wave.
Marilyn Manson versus the Klaxons, yeah.
So this to me wasn't a shock. It's basically him doing Depeche Mode or him doing an 80s synth pop. So that's why I'm sad to find out that it's got barely any heat behind it. Like, no one I've met who is a fan as likes it or has heard it.
Really?
Yeah, because there's a couple of people who were Marilyn Manson fans from back in the day, and they listen to it. Now, not for me.
But I guess it's because, Marilyn Manson is such a character, and he's going to attract, a certain type of person who might not be, as kind of like just as open-minded towards other types of music. And I mean, his covers of 80s stuff they're really good, but they sound very Marilyn Manson, very heavy. And yeah, he does normally mix kind of synths and guitars together, but I'm used to it sounding much heavier than this, and this didn't sound heavy at all. Like, it was only his voice was the only kind of heavy element. So if you're expecting that and you get this, I guess those people won't like it. But no, I think of all the songs on the album, that this is the one that made me be like, okay, I really have to go and listen to more recent stuff and listen to this album.
I get a feeling that he's now in a camp where he has millions of hardcore fans, but it'll be very hard for him to get any audience. He would just have that a bit like the Depeche Mode, to keep saying, he will have that core audience who just follow him around. So looking at it, he's had like 4 million views on YouTube, but I doubt he will be played on much radio anymore. I've not heard him even been interviewed anywhere. This is quite sad. So yeah, hopefully he can find another audience, because this needs to be heard, I think.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, we agreed on the song.
On song number, was it number 8? We agreed.
Who knew Man Manson would bring us together?
Over underrated.
So we're now back to Babs and another of the highly recommended bands of the year, Run the Jewels, with their cover of Just by Radiohead.
When you said cover, I was like, what? Okay.
Do not know. This is Just with a $ sign instead of the S, with Pharrell Williams and Zach De La Rocca. And is that it? Is that the 2 people?
Yeah.
Is anyone else involved?
I think that's it.
Yeah. It's a bit like Ghost Poet for me. Like, their band, they get so much praise. I keep thinking, right, spend some time with this band and try and work out where and yeah, it's just I struggle. Unfortunately, guys, I struggle with this genre. Again,
I didn't think you'd like it because it is hip hop, but I have to say, I'm really surprised how high it is on so many people's lists. I've seen it as number 1 of albums of the year. I much prefer RTJ2. I think that might be because that's the first album of theirs that I heard, so I just have that association. I think this album is good, but I don't think it's like everyone's like, oh my god, it's the best ever. And I think part of the reason why so many people are saying it's good is because of the subject matter. It's very on point with what's going on in the world, and sure, that elevates it, and I think it does elevate this song as well. And Zach De La Rocha is in another Rocha, don't know. He's on another RTJ song that I like called Close Your Eyes and Count to Fuck, where it's just very catchy. It starts with him at the beginning, run the jewels fast, run the jewels fast. And it's very catchy. But this song for me was the standout of the album. It was the best. And I think I feel like almost all of their songs that I like the most are the ones that feature other people. I think they really excel in collaborations, even though I think they're a great duo of collaborators because their voices sound so different. Killer Mike is way more urgent and LP is way more laid back. But here I think Pharrell and Zach really, really add to it, and yeah, the subject matter does elevate it. But yeah, I definitely think how good the album is was a little bit overhyped.
I don't hate hip hop. I've always dabbled in it. Hey, I've seen Jay-Z, guys.
Ooh.
And I know all the words to "Do the Part Man" by The Simpsons. So
wow, credentials.
I think they create a sound that wants people to be alerted by it. It's a warning sign. It's like, listen to us. We've got something to say. Boom! This is what's happening, and roll. And that to me, I find more of a struggle to get into because I don't really. I do care, but it's not what I get from music. I don't go to music for politics or or sex or whatever. I don't really listen to lyrics in that sort of way, unfortunately. Sorry, guys.
I think I do listen to lyrics a bit more than you. I like politics and sex as subject matters, even though I think one of the reasons that Pet Shop Boys are one of my favorite bands is that they really have like a wide variety of subjects. I mean, they have a song called I've got the brains, you've got the brawn, let's go make lots of money. I mean, that is fucking original, right? And I think Robots in Disguise are my other favorite band of like the subject matter is wide. They have a song called Argument about like being in a band and it being terrible, and you feel like it's really kind of inspired by what really happened from being in a band.
Over underrated.
Okay, so Swad, if that's how you pronounce her name, Faces. When this song started, I genuinely thought it was Sarah Barthel from Fantagram. Again, for a second, I was like, what? He's put another one? No. And I was like, oh, no, okay, no, someone else. I thought this was fine. And once again, it felt very Eurovision-y to me. And when I say Eurovision, I mean kind of modern Eurovision. I don't mean fucking, Kisses for Me, okay? That's not wrong with that. But having watched Eurovision 2020, I feel like, yeah, Girl in Red and Swad really represented that for me. So I listened to it again kind of immediately to be like, am I really that indifferent to this song? But yeah, I thought it was fine. I didn't dislike it, but it didn't really.
Do you know where she's from?
She's from Finland.
So it's interesting that the guy from the Brexit generation picking bands all around Europe. The person banging in bloody Belgium is all about America and UK. I mean.
Yeah, that is very true. Well, but you'll see. There's one exception.
Yeah, I mean, I never heard of it in my life, and this is literally a song I've heard. But I thought it had a banging chorus. I liked her vocal, and yeah,
her voice is good.
And I think when I first heard it, I thought, yeah, that's all right. And then it sort of kept coming back on my shuffle. I thought, no, actually, I really quite like this, and
so there we go. So maybe I need to listen. I listened to it twice. Maybe I need to listen to it.
Yeah, literally, she has terrible social media presence.
Oh my god, yeah. To find her, it was really because I was like, I didn't want to do too much research into your bands because I was like, I'm sure Fran will tell me. But at the very least, I wanted to know kind of where everyone was from. And then I had to be like Swad music, and I mean, I guess she was Finnish because like her top cities are all Finnish. So I was like, okay, Swad Finland music, and that was how I got the information.
She's basically on Facebook and has like a very brief outline, and that's really it.
Oh wow, yeah, it's. I find it so interesting the people who remain anonymous on social media in 2020.
Especially when you're a new act. Surely this is your time.
You're a new act. You're young. From looking at photos of her, she seems quite young. So yeah, I mean, part of me is like fucking respect to you because you're clearly. It's just you're not a fan and you're doing the work and that's it. At the other hand, I'm like, mate, come on, like at the very least, a Bandcamp or whatever. I don't know if she.
I mean, but her biggest song on Spotify is 48,000, which is pretty low in modern standards.
But I think for a Finnish act, like, I mean, okay, name a Finnish band.
Well, there's another one coming up. Next.
Well, okay, name a Finnish band that isn't the one on your list.
There's the band from Eurovision, Lordi.
There we go. Yeah, right.
There was that big hit in 1999 Bomb Thanks and something when that one.
Oh, yes. Bomb
Yeah,
Funk
Bomb
MCs,
Thanks
love that
MC.
song.
And there's a band called Crash. There you go. 5.
Okay, that's more than I know. That's pretty good. Okay. But what I was trying to prove with that is I think 48,000 for me implies that it's likely that she's not just getting listens in Finland, right? She's probably getting listens outside of Finland, even if her top songs are doing it. So for me, I'm like, if you're an artist from a non-Anglophone country and you're getting listens in Anglophone countries, that's a good thing. Like I did find articles about her written in English. So I think she is kind of moving out. And listen, all the best to you, Swat. I wish you the best. But just this song, like I said, I didn't hate it, but I was a little bit indifferent to it.
Yeah, and if she's not going to plug herself on social media, she's now on a podcast.
No, so you have
she's
to,
now on
Fran.
a podcast. Well done. You're on the same podcast as Julie Putt and Man Manson.
Over underrated.
And Grimes, who is another beloved person in the UK press, how are you saying this title?
I just 4 a.m.
Is it? But she's got a cool way of saying it or typing it.
It's her favorite letter. That's why her kid has that in their name. Yeah, I don't even know if it's a boy or a girl, but yeah, you know this, right? You know that they had a son. I think okay, so it was a son. They had a child and called it like XAAE12 asterisk hyphen or whatever it was.
Okay, Grimes. Well done, Grimes.
Yeah, you're weird, Grimes.
I enjoy the chanting. Who knew I'd say that twice in a podcast?
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear.
Bring back Enigma. And I enjoy the percussion. And I think that it needed a rap.
Really?
So you say I hate hip hop, but I think if it's had a rap, that would give it a bit more.
Really?
Yes. Do you not think?
Wow. No. So this was my most played song of 2020 according to Spotify, which I have to say surprised me. I remember getting into it pre-lockdown, like in February was when I was listening to it, those glory days. No, I think it's a near perfect song.
Near
Grimes...
perfect to admit that it would be perfect if it was featuring Busta Rhymes.
Actually, Grimes and Busta Rhymes. Firstly, it rhymes.
And
number one, it rhymes with Busta Rhymes. I would fucking love to see that.
Or hear it. Or see anything.
Say anything. Like, guys, get involved. Yeah, Grimes, for me, she's a bit like Charlie XCX in that the songs of hers that I love and listen to over and over and over again. But I never really like a full album by her. I think this is from her latest album. It's the one I like the most, but I probably like half the songs. And this one, I think it's the percussion that does it for me. It's very catchy. And it builds as well because it starts and you think it's very quiet and there's it feels like, what is it called? Like the Rainmaker. There's wooden things that you turn upside down and then there's like stones in there and whoosh, yeah. So it sounds like that at the beginning and then suddenly it sounds like a bit of a rave. And I enjoyed that juxtaposition.
She's always an artist that I keep trying to go back to. I like a few singles and I enjoy this. I don't think I would purchase the album, but no, it's fine. Good work, Grimes. Well done.
I still think I would still recommend for you to listen to the album because there are songs on there that are quite different to this. So there's a song called Delete Forever, which is about Little Peep. She called it her Wonderwall, I think, or something like that, because it's basically her on acoustic guitar.
Oh, okay.
So it sounds very different to the other stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, okay.
Over underrated.
Final track, Finnish artist number 2, very surprised, it is The Holy with Twilight of the Idiots. So Fran, I had already saved a song by The Holy on my Spotify. I had Ramses the Evil Brother, which was a song that I had completely forgotten about. I have absolutely no idea how I came across it. So I actually, when I started listening to The Holy, to the Twilight of the Idiots, and I started listening and I was like, okay, let's click in on the band. And then I clicked in and I saw that I had a saved song and I was like, what? So I actually paused it and went to listen to Ramses the Evil Brother. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a great song. Like, it's got a very epic ending. Then I went to listen to Twilight of the Idiots. And I think apart from the Thunderclap effects, especially at the beginning, I didn't enjoy it as much. I feel like it wasn't a million miles away from Ramses the Evil Brother in kind of style and structure, but I don't know if it was just a bit more melodic or there was something about it that again left me a bit cold.
Too much beautiful piano on it, maybe.
Too many nice things. I can only handle so much. But I would definitely go and listen to more of their stuff. It didn't put me off kind of exploring them further. I just think that particular song is not for me, but I think there are likely many more that I would enjoy.
I think you might like them live. Do you know that they've got 2 drummers?
Love a band with 2 drummers. Shout out to Paus from Portugal, one of my favorite Portuguese bands.
Shout
who also
out
have 2
to
drummers.
Anima and the Ants.
Shout out to the Go Team, and there ends my knowledge.
And Soulwax. Okay.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah, I think his voice isn't unique, but I think maybe because he's Finnish and the accent kind of makes it stand out a little bit more. I love the production. I love the guitar lines and the piano lines and the percussion in the background. And they've got 3 or 4 excellent songs. And I will talk about them later. Spoiler. So that's before I ruin what I'm going to talk about later on. Let's move on to your final track.
Over underrated.
So my final track is a Belgian band.
Ooh. On repeat with compact disc with a K, Dummies, and it's the best song on the playlist.
Oh, yeah, I thought you'd like this one.
You knew this, didn't you? You thought I'll finish with a nice.
No. I was actually thinking like it was literally a kind of fuck. I have almost no non-British, non-American artists on here. I think everyone else. I'm looking at it. Yeah, everyone else is British or American. And I was like, oh crap! Like I do listen to music from other countries. I literally don't live in an English-speaking country. But yeah, so what did you think?
It's a great dance thriller. Has a great groove to it. I had never heard of it in my entire life, and this is me listening to every song I could find in the past 2 months. I guess being Belgian, that's maybe why they weren't on my radar. Are they popular in Belgium? Like, are they?
So yeah, they are. They won. So there's this kind of big sort of Battle of the Bands-esque competition that happens in Flanders every 2 years. It's called the Humo Rock Rally, where basically they get bands from all over Belgium, unsigned bands all over Belgium, to submit kind of demos, and then they do regional heats, and the final comes together at Ancienne Belgique, which is one of the main venues in Brussels. And almost without fail, like every band that wins becomes massive. Bands who don't win become well known, at least in Belgium. I think, like with so many Belgian bands, I'm like, how they're singing in English, they're doing genres that are popular in the English speaking world. I don't understand how they're not more well known kind of outside of it. Yeah, so I can tell you that they won the Humo's Rock Rally in 2012. So they've been around for a while. Yeah, and I'm looking at the Wikipedia. They were founded in 2010. I think they're brilliant. I think they're one of those bands that like all their output is great. They did a fantastic Britney Spears cover version, which I really recommend. I think is it Toxic? Yeah, they did a cover of Toxic by Britney Spears, which is excellent. And yeah, for me, they're kind of LCD Sound System even though I think that because they have a song called Girls Keep Drinking, just like LCD Sound System have a song called Drunk Girls. But I think it's true. The song starts and it's weird. There's a saxophone and you're like, what the hell's going on? And then suddenly the percussion launches in and it's great. And it's the opening song to this album. So yeah, I'm delighted that you liked kind of the only non-Anglophone band on the list. And I really recommend you checking out all of their work and the Britney Spears cover.
Well, I am a big Europhile, guys.
Good.
I do love a non-English speaking country doing music in English. I think it gives it a bit of an edge.
There's so many Belgian bands singing in English that are really not known outside of Belgium very much.
And it's nice having like a secret pool of music because if they've not made it onto a UK radio, then it's basically like a little secret pool I can jump into and have my secret bands singing in English that nobody else in the UK knows. It's kind of fun, kind of selfish, but kind of fun.
Yeah, I get that.
Over underrated.
Let's mention our most overrated or underrated artists of the year. Who do you want to go first?
So the way that I thought about this, because I guess I didn't go through the list in quite a methodical way. It was a bit difficult for me to think about who was the most overrated or underrated. So I've kind of linked it to my most overrated moment of 2020. So for me, the most overrated music moment of 2020 was the Grammy nominations, because once again, I just think the Grammys are bullshit. Really, I think I've never connected with them. And because I was doing the research for this, I went and looked at the Wikipedia page of the controversies, and there are so many controversies. And this year, the controversy was that they wanted fucking acclaimed comedian Tiffany Haddish to do it for free. Not only do it for free, but to host it for free, do her own makeup and everything, which is such a lack of respect that it really fucking pissed me off. So when I was looking at the list of nominations, I was like, okay, who makes me the angriest of this list? And I'm afraid to say, Fran, it's someone who you've mentioned, but it's Coldplay. Because I love Coldplay's first two albums. I really love them. I have great memories associated with them, but I've been very indifferent to Coldplay since. And when I saw Coldplay's name, I was just like, oh, like there's so much other interesting music going on. Like, why Coldplay?
Which award is it for?
I think it's best album.
Really, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Coldplay being included in an award nomination that I don't really gel with it. Yeah, for me that was the icing on the cake. How about you?
Coldplay haven't done a good album since Viva La Vida, and that's like what 13 years ago. Well, this might shock you. I've been looking at what the press have been saying are the best albums of the year to try and work out where I am compared to the rest of the media, and I think that the Strokes are the most overrated band of the year.
Interesting selection. Okay.
Because I love the Strokes, and the album came out early lockdown, like March. So obviously everyone had a lot of time to listen to them. And I thought, this is just, man, like what is this? Like the Strokes, since they came back together, they have literally been a different band, and it sounds closer to Julian's solo work than the Strokes we loved the first three albums of. Yeah. And it basically, to me, it sounds like Julian Casablanca and his mates make an album. And for guitar lines, like they've got two guitar players, yeah.
And they
listen to it.
No, I actually haven't listened to it because I've been left very cold by the Strokes' recent work. I think the last Strokes song that I liked was Machu Picchu from Angles, which is 2011. So Machu Picchu and You're So Right are the two songs I like from that album. And then everything, Come Down Machine, I was just like, what is this? I don't like this song. I didn't bother. I just didn't bother with the Strokes, even though I think some people were telling me like, oh, it is better. But yeah, no, it's not the same as, but the third album, there's a few songs that I like, but there's stuff that I also don't like. But the first two albums are just perfect. So yeah. It's difficult to recapture that.
So I've listened to the Strokes album like maybe 6-7 times, and at one point I even had a single in my top 50, and I thought, why am I lying to myself? I'm literally putting on there because I used to love the Strokes, and I thought, no, like if this was not called the Strokes, this would not be my top 50. So I thought, no.
I'm glad to hear it, Fran.
It's on so many like Spin, Pitchfork, Enemy, Guardian. It's on a lot of their like top 50 albums of the year, and people giving it really good reviews.
People love the idea of the Strokes. This is the thing. And even when they were at their biggest, the hype was disproportionate. And I really like their first two albums. Like I really, really like their first two albums and listened to them over and over again. But they were never like one of my favorites. You know, I feel like they were a bit of a throwback, even if their music was quite interesting. So it didn't feel like the world's most innovative band to me. But they're so good looking and they're so cool, and they're all half this and half something else in nationality. Like they're a very cool band to like, and I think that's why, you know.
It's going to shock people, but yeah, the Strokes are overrated, and I will now declare my underrated band, which it's not really going to shock anyone because you've mentioned them already, and it's The Holy. I think The Holy's album's great, and maybe because they're Finnish, but no one seems to have known who they are in the UK.
They're finished. Have they broken up?
Yeah, no, they're finished as in the country. So we have not got an announcement to
I
make.
was like, what? I've just been talking about going to explore their back catalogue.
Yeah, and you mentioned Ramesh and I can't remember what it's called, Ramesh and brother or something. Ramesh, the single you got.
Oh, Evil Ramsey's evil brother.
Yeah.
Ramsey's the evil brother. Sorry, that's the one.
Yeah, that made my best of 2018, I believe. So I've been a fan since then, and this album there's a step up from that album, and they tour for UK, but nowhere more than like a tiny place in London. And listening to the sound, I have no idea why that sound is not played on XFM or Absolute, because it's basically
Radio X, Fran.
We are in 2000 Metropolis.
Yeah.
I mean, look, guys, I don't have digital radio. I just listen to the podcast.
Same.
Yeah. So you think that band would be perfect for these radio stations? And no one seems to play them anywhere. So the Holy, guys, listen to the Holy and see two people play the drums at the same time is a beautiful sight.
Over underrated.
I think if you are a stickler for the rules, you might not like what I'm going to call my my underrated artists. But what I really enjoyed this year was songs in 2 different languages, specifically French and English. So there was Dua Lipa and Angèle, and there was also Aya Nakamura and Stormzy. And I am absolutely fucking delighted. And the reason why I called it underrated is because, okay, Angèle and Aya Nakamura might be huge stars in the French-speaking world and a little bit beyond, but the fact that they're teaming up with British artists who are much bigger, it's going to expose them to a much wider audience. I think it's so interesting anyway to have songs in 2 different languages. I think French and English, it makes sense with kind of the country's histories. And while, you know, they still might be big artists, I feel like the hype could go even further. I think it's really original. I want more people to do it. And that's why I'm picking specifically, I think those 2 collaborations is my favorite underrated moments of underrated and unexpected moments of the year.
It's kind of strange, really, because like in the modern world, it's so easy to find music from around the world, easier than ever. But in the 1980s in the UK, we had #1 songs in a foreign language. So why is it that we have not had a big hit in a foreign language?
I think it's a mix of things. I think it is a bit isolationism. I think it's the fact that English became a more global language spoken by other people. So whereas I feel like, a lot of older Brits who, for example, speak French fluently because they would go to France and they would have to speak it, or, they'd be into Serge Gainsbourg or whoever, and they'd want to learn the songs. I think the 90s was Rule Britannia era, and they dropped the requirement for language learning at like GCSE or A-level age. So automatically people were doing it less. So yeah, I think it's a combination of those factors. You're saying that you're a Europhile and you love listening to bands that, are from other nations that you don't know about. I think that's not the case for most people. Sometimes the reason why bands don't make it big, like the Holy, it's like, well, have they got the publicists for it? If it's in the UK where there's so many good British acts, it's like doubly as hard to make it through. And I think that's why, but I think that is changing. I mean, the fact that, K-pop is so massive and so often they're singing in a language that not only is different, but has a different freaking alphabet. That's, that's next level. I think that's quite positive.
The only K-pop I've heard is things like Dynamite, which is like, could not be more
but I think that's not all of their songs, right? Like very often they'll sing in at very least a mix. I'm Halsey and Charlie XCX, mentioning them again. I think they've done songs with BTS where it's like in Korean and English at the same time. And I think, yeah, if the gatekeepers of culture, like, you were like, why is it not played on Radio X? I'm like, I don't think anyone who isn't an old white man, an old white British man, is played on Radio X, because that's their vibe and that's what they're going for. They may be a bit diversifying a bit more now. I do hear a few more women, but yeah, if those are the gatekeepers, then they're not maybe going to be as open to it. I think that's changing.
Let's say. I mean, I'm happy to listen to a foreign language, but it's just hard because it's a foreign language. It's hard for me to find it because you have to type in French to find the playlist with people singing in French sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, of course. But that's what. But this I've said this before. That's what everyone else in the world has to do. Not everyone speaks English remotely fluently, but if a song will dominate, like people will go and make the effort, and like people. I've had people say to me like, oh, I just can't get into songs in other languages because like, oh, I don't understand the lyrics. And it's like, literally, that is what almost everyone else in the world has to do. Like, make a bit of an effort. I love that. I've always wanted to run about this. I'm glad you've given me the platform too, Fran.
And then you ask them, do you only need to go Ross? Yeah. Well, that's not.
that's a fucking made up language. Or, oh, I'm learning fucking Klingon. Oh, great. So you learn fictional languages and not real languages.
Just have no use to, yeah. I mean, I guess there's some languages which can be quite different, like to our ears, like Russian. It can sound quite harsh to our puny English
Portuguese often, like Portuguese from Portugal, sounds a
Yeah.
bit Polish and a bit Russian, and I know it is as well. And I think
They have weird tongue sounds. Oh my god, what's this?
I think there's definitely not, I've got language preferences as well. There are languages that I think are more beautiful and less beautiful, but it wouldn't, if it was a language that I didn't like, it wouldn't put me off listening to it. Like even I have a specific example for that. So Olga Bell, I don't know if you know her, one of her albums was on James Acaster's 2016 list. She's fantastic, and she actually did a collaboration with Tom Vex, so there we go, second mention for him. A band called No Thank You. So she is American, but I think she was either born in Russia or her parents are Russian, in any case. And she did an album entirely in Russian that was already quite an experimental album. And because it was in Russian, I literally had to be like, right, I'm putting the time aside to go and listen to this. And it was only recently that I listened to it, and I was like, okay, this is nice, but this is very experimental, and there is another barrier. But it wouldn't stop me from doing it completely, because I'm like, just because it sounds a bit strange, you can get used to it.
So that's what we're talking about, guys. In 2020, it's come to an end. Let's make 2021 the year when you can move out of your little comfort blanket and try and embrace the beauty of music around the world. Thank you for listening to our rundown of 2020. Let us know what you loved and what you hated, etc.
And may 2021 be better in every single motherfucking aspect.
Have a Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, other celebrations, and have a Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Более чем заниженный. Over underrated.
So what did you think was over and underrated in music in 2020? Get in touch. You can email us overunderatedmusicpod@gmail.com. It's at OUmusicPod on Twitter and at overunderatedmusicpod on Instagram. 2020 was a pretty crap year, so wherever you are in the world, I hope you can rest and make the most of this festive period, even if your movements are limited. I will definitely be seeking some comfort in music podcasts, so thanks for choosing to listen to this one. Here's to more good music, the return of live concerts, and fewer musical heroes coming out as COVID deniers in 2021.